Saiyans are bad news. Imagine intergalactic space Spartans with laser hands, who are also giant monkey werewolves. So yeah, not something people can ignore. The Saiyans go around with their usual deal, as they did in Dragon Ball. However, this time, without a single universal ruler to answer to in Frieza, the Saiyans focus purely on challenging the strongest races. Their drive for battle bring them against basically everyone worth the time, and this goes well. Except when it doesn't. DC is a universe with infinitely more types of alien species, and while this means a lot more chance for the Saiyans to engage in combat, it also means they build up a lot more enemies, especially since Green Lanterns are kind of a thing. The Saiyans would be widely hated by basically every other race in the universe, their sheer power and tenacity making them a problem too great for the Guardians of the Green Lantern Corps to leave it to the resident Green Lantern to deal with it. But at the same time, they were hesitant to have their police force engage in like a full-on invasion, even if they could. Luckily for them, that wouldn't be a problem. The Saiyans were bringers of war, and war breeds hatred. Enter Rogol Zaar. For those of you not currently reading Brian Michael Bendis' current Superman run, Rogol Zaar is a powerful new enemy who bears a hatred for Kryptonians, claiming they were too dangerous to be left alive, and it's suggested that he may have, or at least was trying to, destroy the planet Krypton. So while his descriptions of the Kryptonians as warlike and barbaric might seem far-fetched to fans who know the lore, the Saiyans? Oh, he'd be totally on the money, and probably even more devoted to his cause as a noble one. He comes before the highest beings in the universe and asks permission to end the Saiyan race. They agree pretty much instantly. Problem solved. When the moment is right, Planet Vegeta is destroyed through unknown means, but the majority of the Saiyan race goes up with it. Given the power of many DC races, Saiyans couldn't afford to have as many of their troops alone in small groups on other worlds, so they were all on the planet when it blew up, mostly. Any survivors, Rogol Zaar would make it his life goal to hunt down and eradicate. Now you may ask, what about Goku? Well, luckily for this scenario, Earth is still a pretty backwater planet in the large scheme of DC, at least to the Saiyans. So little Kakarot still gets sent there to wipe out the inhabitants. Or, if you want the new take, Bardock gets wind that the Saiyans have pretty much pissed off the entire universe and figures his son would be better off on a planet without a target on it. So Goku lands on Earth, near the outskirts of Kent Farm to be exact. The Kents investigate the crash and find the baby in his pod. Now, the Kents see this as a miracle, even with the tale. They had been unable to conceive a child on their own, and so jump at the opportunity to take in the space baby as their own. Oh, and they probably name him Clark still, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm still just gonna call him Goku or Kakarot. Unfortunately for the loving Kents, Saiyan babies ain't little balls of sunshine. Kakarot is the ultimate problem child. Super strong, constantly hungry and wild, Martha and Jonathan manage to survive for a few years, but it pushes them to the brink. Any other parent would have long since ran away screaming, but the Kents were something else. Patient and loving don't even come close to describing the level of discipline they had to raise a Kryptonian baby. A Saiyan would be harder, but not impossible for them. But with all the rocky situations like this, there must come a breaking point. One night, be it waking up in the night or an attempt to sneak out, the young Kakarot takes a glimpse of the full moon for the first time. Jonathan and Martha watch in horror as the child they took in becomes a gigantic monster, rampaging through their fields. Jonathan tries to console the monster, attempting to reach his adopted son through the beast. He is crushed in a single blow from the ape's fist. Martha, terrified, tries to plead one last time, knowing it was her only chance of survival. But before the great ape could do further damage, a Green Lantern arrives on the scene. Abin Sur, the Green Lantern before the ones you might be more familiar with, was sent by the Guardians to find the Saiyan pods sent to this sector and eliminate or capture the warrior within. Although his search up to that point had led to nothing, the distinct energy absorbed and given off by Saiyans undergoing a great ape transformation alerted his ring, and he arrived on the scene. The Lantern battled the monster, even his great powers struggling to combat the beast without lethal force, until a stray shot cut Kakarot's tail, undoing the transformation and leaving the now unconscious child to fall headfirst into a crater formed from the battle. Abin Sur was disgusted to find out he had been a child he was sent to eliminate, and as such, knowing that without his tail the child was no immediate threat, felt it was right to give the Saiyan race a chance at a fresh start. He would entrust the grief-stricken Martha not to make this night a mistake, and to raise this child right. When asked by the Guardians, Abin Sur simply stated that the threat was eliminated. The Guardians, not really wanting to push the "did you kill the baby" button any further, were happy to leave it at that. Cut to a few years later, and Goku had been a different child ever since that night. He was kind, gentle, inquisitive, joyful and adventurous, though not particularly book smart. While she still missed her husband greatly, Martha was able to heal alongside Goku, raising him to understand his strength was best used to help others, and discouraging his assistants on trying to fight everything. Being with Martha Kent as opposed to Grandpa Gohan leads to a Goku who is initially weaker, but a little smarter. Still no genius, but being homeschooled on farms tend to give better results than growing up alone in the mountains. Oh, and the homeschool bit? Yeah, Martha quickly realised that sending Goku to a public school was going to end in disaster for everyone. The two formed a close bond, but Goku around the age of 12 began to feel cooped up. Farming was fun, but it wasn't nearly enough to satisfy his warrior instincts. He understood that genuinely fighting people was bad. Martha did try to help him with karate courses and books she found online, but Goku ran through all of them quickly, it only serving to make him want the real thing even more. She made it clear that people could get hurt if he wasn't careful and that violence isn't the best option, but he still struggled to console that with how he was feeling. A Goku in the DC universe grows up initially being far more aware of his differences to others, and a lot more uncertain in his goals. He wants to get as strong as he can and fight the very best, but now there is a layer of self-doubt to that. Uncertainty, and a little bit of shame at these feelings. One thing he does become clearer with is that his willingness to help others is amplified. Goku's innate kindness is expanded under the Kents, leaning him to be a little closer to the super-heroic version of Goku, seen in the original English dub. Eventually, this yearning for new things and adventure leads to Goku deciding to casually leave home to explore the world. Martha is deeply saddened at her child leaving the nest, but part of her understands completely. Goku was never going to be happy to live on a farm. He was meant for more that she just didn't have the tools to give him. Goku spends his teenage years all over the planet, moving from adventure to adventure, as the DC Earth has no shortage of opportunity for the young Saiyan to finally express this side of himself. His journey around the world takes him to multiple locales, getting to exert himself for the first time and live in the wild on Dinosaur Island, probably filling his belly to the brim for the first time in his life too. He would come into conflict with his first set of mad geniuses on Oolong Island. See why. Moving on. Goku would be mildly confused at their attempt to contain him, feeling the first linges of pain he can remember against their weapons. But in the end, he would level the building once he discovered that they were up to no good. He was approached by the Atlanteans as he swam across the oceans of the world, almost causing unrest in the deep from a couple of misunderstandings and his eagerness to fight. But eventually they let him go, seeing he was of no harm, except maybe to the sea life population if he didn't stop eating. Dr. Fate was his first encounter with the superheroic community. During his journey across Egypt, Goku stumbled upon the mage under siege from a portal of demons. You know, spooky stuff he deals with every Wednesday. Goku took the chance to help, and after the battle was won, Fate entrusted Goku with 2 mystical items in his collections as thanks, remarking that the boy reminded him of an old Eastern myth. He continued journeying around the world, now able to fly on his Nimbus Cloud, and aiding small rebel factions in war-torn countries purely by accident, attracting attention in conspiracy circles as a wild-haired strongman, dressed in ripped farmer's overalls performing incredible feats. He also came into contact with various teachers, searching for the truly strong wherever he went. Being first trained by a Richard Dragon, who eventually couldn't put up with Goku and sent him on his way. Then David Kane, who did the same. And Lady Shiva, so Goku didn't exactly fit with the self-serious, death-focused ultra martial artists of DC. He was simply too calm, too pure in his ambition and goals, that despite increasing his martial arts proficiency, he could never quite respect these people as true teachers given the way they acted. Even the League of Assassins attempted to manipulate Goku, by this time 16 years old, into joining them. At first, he simply wanted to learn new things from them, and they seemed to help people. But eventually, Goku came to think of their methods as cheap and unfair, with Ra's al Ghul seeking to dispose of the boy once it became apparent that there was never going to be a way to get the Saiyan to see his way of things. They battled for a time, with Raz's trickery allowing him to contest Goku's greater speed and power, for a brief time, but eventually he was overwhelmed. When Goku struck him down, he decided not to kill him, and hoped he would fight him again someday. Raz's broken body crawled into the Lazarus pit, defeated, but having gained a sense of respect for the boy, having in all his years never faced someone so pure of heart, focused on battle, a real martial artist. Finally, he met the one he would truly call master. In China, on the hunt for some food, Goku stumbled into the dojo of I-Ching, a blind master of martial arts. I-Ching immediately sensed the incredible latent life force inside of Goku and asked him to join his public group sessions. Goku said sure, and unlike most beings in a DC universe, enjoyed getting to train with members of the public in meditation, forming many friends with his easygoing personality. In their more serious personal sessions, I-Ching would inform Goku of Qi, life force energy that I'm probably mispronouncing, the Chinese concept of what Dragon Ball fans know better as Ki, allowing those who harness it to perform incredible feats. Goku spent the rest of his globetrotting with I-Ching, training and improving at a rate far beyond what he had been capable of before. The 8 trigrams of the Bagura, I know, stick with me folks, are what Goku was instructed to follow in his training, mastering them rapidly over the years and growing dramatically in strength accordingly. He mastered all except 2 of the trigrams. The 5th trigram, Li, fueled by passion and fire, and the 7th, Qian, again, which was of creation and heaven. Remember that. It'll mean something eventually. Despite not being able to fully master himself, he could now move far faster than lightning, annihilate mountains with a thrust of his hand, resist mental attacks, sense people from worlds away, and bolster his strength in short bursts. But above all, the most important lesson learned from I-Ching was an acceptance of who he was. That all things in life have a balance. The enjoyment of battle does not mean one has to become a force of destruction. The betterment of the self was a noble goal, a path to enlightenment, and one Goku finally felt at peace with. I-Ching knew that Goku had to venture out on his own path if he wished to further his development, and left him an origin blue suit, having pulled some strings with the Chinese government to gather materials strong enough to withstand Goku's type of battle. The one personal touch, which was at Goku's request, was the yin-yang symbol on the back, something to honour his master by, and a reminder of his goal. I-Ching had saw the potential for true martial arts perfection within Goku, and he wished that he'd never forget to strive for that goal, to become more than duality, to become aware of the void, and forgo the self entirely. Movement without thoughts, acting on instinct. Ah, well, I can't imagine anyone pulling that off. Goku became a free spirit, but his first for stronger opponents eventually brought him to the big city, Metropolis. Lex Luthor, the most powerful man on Earth, they say. Goku immediately challenged him to a fight, became confused when security tried to remove him, and then even more dumbfounded when Luthor was nearly knocked unconscious from a single poke. Despite more education in DC Universe, Goku was still Goku. The Daily Planet reported the scene, the humiliation of Lex Luthor by a martial artist in an origin blue jumpsuit. Saved from the mobs oppressed by Jimmy Olsen, Goku was informed that Luthor was powerful in other ways, not punch-ups, but that he was a real bad guy. Not really understanding everything, but seeing the chance to try and defeat a different kind of strength, he decided to help any way he could. He had taken a liking to Jimmy. Goku became Metropolis' protector in order to aid his new friend, while reporter Lois Lane tried to expose Luthor through actual channels, with Goku acting more as the muscle when things involved goons and robots. Luckily for Goku, this meant he got to fight stronger and stronger opponents. Foes like Metallo, Toyman, Livewire, Atomic Skull, Lobo, which was a particularly insane brawl that leveled a few streets, and then the two went to eat together. And whatever scheme Luther came up with to remove the buffoon from his plans. Goku would like spending time with Lois in much the same way regular Goku did with Bulma, as she helped explain things to him and was the only bastion of common sense between him and Jimmy. While Lois thought Goku was attractive and refreshing to be around given his innocence, she saw him more as a little brother than anything romantic. Goku gaining a rep also meant he was eventually approached by the Batman. They had actually met before a few times during Batman's training when they shared a common master or two, though Goku didn't really remember him that much, which annoyed Bruce. Batman explained to Goku that he did some digging into just who he was, and put together quickly that he was the Kent's boy, and had been the one who killed Pa Kent. The revelation shocked and horrified Goku, which Batman used to enforce the idea that he owed it to that man to help others more seriously with his power. Batman saw Goku as a potential threat, and wanted to make sure he was on the right path to being more than just a hero for fun. Still, Batman respected Goku as a fellow martial artist, and felt that he wasn't a total lost cause, even if he was far from the motivated weapon of justice that Bruce was. Soon after, they encountered Wonder Woman together, and soon the Trinity found their leader in Diana, the middle ground between Goku's naivete and Bruce's cynicism. Goku particularly enjoyed regular sparring sessions with Diana, who was the first opponent he couldn't defeat, feeling himself get stronger after every beatdown she gave him. Wonder Woman, on the other hand, was so relieved to find a friend in a man who was basically just an Amazon. Eventually, Goku slowly met other heroes which were popping up over the world, and he learned from their amazing powers to try and push his own. Seeing the Green Lantern firing energy blasts led him to mimicking it with his Qui. Seeing Wonder Woman flying led him to develop it himself. The Flash gave him the idea of using after images, and even Shazam helped him develop the trend of shouting his attacks. For some reason, it came naturally to Goku, despite many of us finding it strange.
Long ago, the original Saiyan homeworld was torn between two factions. Saiyans of pure hearts, and those who sought destruction. One warrior, Yamoshi, led his 5 comrades against them, becoming the first Super Saiyan, achieving incredible power, and even in death, starting a legend that would be told for centuries. The Super Saiyan that appeared once every 1,000 years. A Saiyan who overcomes the wall which no warrior, no matter how gifted, can overcome. This legend eventually reached the darkest ears of all, Darkseid, ruler of Apocalypse, and one of the new gods, trapped in an endless war with the world of New Genesis. Darkseid schemed that if he were to one day control the Warrior of Legends, it could help him tip the balance in his favour. Unaware of how they were being watched by outside forces, the Saiyan race continued to grow after they escaped the destruction of their original home. They arrived on Planet Tuffle, which after decades of war was renamed to Planet Vegeta, once they fully conquered the native Tuffles, and they stole their technology for themselves. King Vegeta's reign proved fruitful, as he began using the nearby world of Daxam as a training ground for young Saiyans, keeping the people there weak on purpose but never fully wiping them out. A planetary punching bag for the Saiyans to practice war. As the years passed, the king grew more and more paranoid. The races of the universe were starting to band together against the Saiyans, and he felt his grip on his territories loosening by the day. So much was his fear that he even exiled a young Saiyan child, the baby Broly's amazing powers threatening his bloodline's claim to rule. The child's father Paragus fled the planet in search of Broly, swearing revenge against the royal family as a result. King Vegeta even sent one of his own children into exile. His youngest son Tarbal was seen as an embarrassment to his throne. The child was sent to the planet Ran so that the king could be rid of any association with him. His only true sense of pride was in his firstborn, the prodigal prince, Vegeta. Vegeta was a prodigy, able to surpass his teachers in no time at all despite his young age. This natural power left him arrogant, and soon he ran out of challenges to entertain him on Planet Vegeta. He wished to have a real conquest, something to prove himself to his father. King Vegeta forbid it, refusing to allow his son to leave the planet while there was so much attention being placed on the Saiyans. Vegeta was mighty, but he could not risk his heir being kidnapped or killed. After weeks of protesting, the young prince eventually decided to disobey his father, deciding to act for himself. He enlisted the help of Nappa, an older Saiyan who was in charge of looking after the prince while the king tended to ruling, and a young low-class warrior named Raditz, who was eager to prove himself with a real conquest too, and volunteered to be their pilot. They set off to the planet Thanagar, home to a particularly warlike race, and after a few weeks of travel, the Saiyans began their assault on a capital city. The battle was fierce and hard fought. The legions sent after the three overwhelmed them in their initial assault, but after each skirmish, the Saiyans felt themselves improve, Vegeta himself feeling the thrill of life and death battle for the first time. On their final assault, however, the Saiyans decided to use their fake moons and allowed themselves to transform into their Great Ape forms, which finally allowed them to take a city for themselves, slaughtering the defending forces and leaving the Saiyan royal crest carved in the city's ruins. Feeling that their thirst for battle was satisfied, the Saiyans made their way home, expecting to be greeted as heroes with cut-off wings and helmets as trophies. Unfortunately, all they saw was an asteroid field where Planet Vegeta once stood. As Raditz wept for his parents, and Nappa stood in horror at the thought of his comrades that now were lost, Vegeta gritted his teeth in anger. This was to be his moment of glory, his first step to taking the throne and ruling as king, now gone forever. The people of Planet Vegeta didn't matter to him. This was more an affront to his pride. Quickly, he demanded Raditz take him to Ran, knowing that if this was attack on the Saiyans, his little brother will most likely be next on the list, and that would lead him to the people responsible. When the trio finally arrived, they found a lone warrior standing in a wasteland. Rogol Zaar. He had gone out of his way to ensure as little civilian casualties as possible, though this was more a courtesy. Crawling towards Vegeta was his little brother Tarbell, barely holding on to life. Before the kid Vegeta had a chance to react, Rogol Zaar ended the child's life with a thrust of his spear. Vegeta knew at that moment that this man was the one who had destroyed his planet, his people, robbed him of his birthright, and now stood gloating over killing a member of his royal family. He could not allow this to stand. And so the young Saiyan charged at Rogol Zaar with all his might, Raditz and Nappa quickly following suit. The trio already moved like a well-oiled machine, having grown accustomed to each other's movements through their short time together, allowing Nappa to take charge while Raditz served as a distraction and Vegeta the overwhelming force. It meant nothing to Rogol Zaar, who allowed every blow to land on him without budging an inch. Every blast, every kick, every punch, combination, everything they tried. Nothing could stop this monster. He fought back at incomprehensible speed, Raditz feeling the impact of the punch long after it sent him hurtling to the ground. Nappa was thrown like a ragdoll, smashed into the ground repeatedly as his bones cracked with the sound of thunder. Vegeta lasted the longest, despite his young body being covered in wounds. He refused to yield, biting his glove to hold up his broken fist to fire energy blasts. Rogol Zaar placed the boy under his boot heel, as the other two Saiyans lay broken on the ground, unable to do anything but watch. With this act, he would have saved the universe from the Saiyans' impurity. The blood of the last son of Vegeta would mean his work is done. The Super Saiyan would never rise to threaten the universe again. Unfortunately for Rogol Zaar, he was quickly blasted back by the sudden opening of a boom tube. Parademons rushing through and grabbing the Saiyans through it, keeping Rogol Zaar from having the time to intervene. He screamed in frustration as the portal closed, the laughter of the parademons fading as he crushed their skulls in anger. His victory had been stolen from him, and now the Saiyans were in the hands of someone far, far worse. Vegeta opened his bruised eyes, no longer facing Rogol Zaar, but the embodiment of evil itself, Darkseid. Beside him, Granny Goodness, who was already instructing her minions to take Nappa and Raditz away. The Saiyan Prince crawled to his feet, asking who dare interrupt his battle, demanding to be sent back so he could finish his foe. Darkseid laughed, as the tiny prince stared at him without the slightest hint of fear. Vegeta, curious at this new possible enemy, asked who he was. Darkseid blasted him with his Omega Beams, making the young warrior scream in agony as a pain unlike anything he had ever felt before overwhelmed his body, as if to say, that is who he was. Darkseid lifted the child by his collar, bringing him to his face as he explained from now on, he would be his father. He would now have become a child of Darkseid, his loyal son, a prince to Apocalypse, an heir to a dark legacy far beyond the scope of a Saiyan empire. The Saiyans weren't as bad as most other races. They understood that being stronger meant them better than everyone else. However, that alone was not enough for Darkseid. If he served him well, not only would he be able to kill Rogol Zaar, Vegeta would be able to rule the multiverse itself in the name of Darkseid. Vegeta laughed, exclaiming that he would rule it only for himself. Darkseid laughed too, then proceeded to blast him again.
Darkseid is...
Vegeta and Raditz would be sent to Granny Goodness's orphanage, where alongside the other captain children like Big Barda and Scott Free, they would be tortured, trained, and moulded into loyal servants of Darkseid. Given his age, Nappa was first sent to be a slave. However, Darkseid quickly realised that having a Saiyan in the gladiatorial pits would bring far more interesting results. When Nappa thanked Darkseid for this chance, he had his tail removed as a reminder of his place. He was not a warrior, he was a tool for Darkseid, not a Saiyan. He was but an extension of Darkseid's will.
Darkseid is...
Raditz would be restricted food when he was thought to be misbehaving, held for weeks on end without access to water. His small body chained to a wall where the passage of time felt like forever. Slow starvation is agony to any being, but to Saiyans, the level of pain is unimaginable. Sometimes, Granny Goodness would come and listen to him cry for his little brother, who he knew was still out there, that he would get strong and come rescue his big brother from this abyss. These outbursts led to longer periods of starvation. As his mind began to break, that hope turned into hatred, resentment for the child his parents gave a better life to on this planet Earth, while he was in hell. All he had left now was the hate.
Darkseid is...
Vegeta trained. He trained until his knuckles bled. He trained until he couldn't feel his legs, when his mind began to create cruel hallucinations from his lack of sleep. Still, he would train. Darkseid allowed this. He molded the boy over the years to be a weapon, one stronger than any Saiyan in history. Vegeta, however, refused to break. He refused to give in. He would fake loyalty, but he would never truly follow Darkseid. He held on to his pride. It was the one thing a Saiyan must always keep. Every day, he would attempt to kill Darkseid, and every day, he would be beaten to the edge of death and sent back to train.
You are not the Saiyan Prince. You are the son of Darkseid. You are not the heir to a warrior race. You are a slave to my will.
Despite this, Vegeta wouldn't give in. He would feel himself getting stronger. He knew the legend of the Super Saiyan was real. If it wasn't, Darkseid wouldn't even be doing this. Then, if he could just harness that power, he would finally be free. This hope kept Vegeta strong. Despite the tortures, despite his fellow Saiyans surrendering to Darkseid's will long ago, eventually, there was a turning point. One day, Darkseid did not fight back this time, and allowed Vegeta's daily assassination attempt to succeed. The boy was in shock, unable to process what he had done, until, just as the first spark of joy began to surface in his heart, Darkseid's true form whispered two simple words into his ear. Vegeta then realized there was no killing him. He was beyond the concept of death. He wasn't a tyrant. He wasn't a foe you could surpass. He was everywhere. No amount of training could bridge this gap. He was every dark thought in men's minds. Vegeta fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face, as the proud Saiyan finally grasped the true nature of what now stood before him.
Darkseid is...
From that moment on, Vegeta became Darkseid's knight, eventually besting his firstborn Kalibak in a dramatic display and taking full control of Darkseid's armies. Beside him were Raditz and Nappa. Their strength also dramatically increased from their hardships on the planet, and they would siege worlds for Darkseid, taking care to work in secret as to not alert New Genesis. Finally, having proved himself worthy, the Saiyans were gifted armor forged in the fire pits of Apocalypse, and given an ultimate task. Before they could wage war on New Genesis, Darkseid required the anti-life equation, a legendary formula said to be found on Earth in the minds of humans that held the power to enslave all beings in the universe to Darkseid's will. Raditz smiled, finally having the chance to meet his little brother after all these long years. Nappa laughed, his scarred body aching for a real challenge, and Vegeta, with but a simple smirk, activated the boom tube, leading the three to the planet Earth.
For the glory of Darkseid.
It has been 7 years since Goku became a hero to Metropolis, bringing in an era of heroism and gigantic battles. The Justice League was formed, with Goku spending much of his time honing his skills against the many threats that would challenge the Earth. Telepathic apes, alternative universe counterparts, crime syndicates, cosmic terrors and immortals. Through it all, Goku felt his power began to reach its limits, his increases in strength growing smaller and smaller. This fact frustrated him, as through his races with the Flash, or encounters with godlike cosmic beings, he knew that there were still greater heights to reach. But it seemed like no matter how hard he pushed himself, the wall was too high. His physical powers weren't the only things weighing on his mind. Ma Kent had passed away, leaving Goku in charge of the farm. He was with her as she died, but Goku never found the time to console in her now that he knew the truth about Pa's real cause of death. Paired with this guilt, he was still conflicted about Lex Luthor. In the years since their early conflicts, Lex had seemingly reformed, becoming a champion of good to Metropolis that helped in ways Goku simply didn't know how. Economics, politics, social justice, these aspects became what Luthor was revered for, while Goku remained more a beloved mascot, protecting Metropolis from powerful threats, not a force for societal change. Lois Lane still tried to uncover Luthor's secret dealings, and Goku tried to help as much as he could, but they simply couldn't find a way to expose the man. Another battleground Goku was hopeless in was the matters of the heart. Lady Shiva had been a recurring threat to Goku over the years, but these encounters would often devolve into her flirting with the confused Saiyan. Their love of battle and prior time together during Goku's training led to him being unsure how to respond to these advances, with one particularly intimate battle leading Goku to Coast City, where he sought the help of the one friend he knew he could talk to this about, Hal Jordan.
Lady Shiva? World's deadliest assassin, Lady Shiva?
Uh-huh. She's bad, right?
Oh yeah, real bad. I mean, never mind. If we're gonna talk about this, I'm gonna need a drink.
As Goku and Hal began to engage in a very awkward conversation, the news report playing on the bar's TV broke them out of it. Goku looked up in shock as three figures emerged from a boom tube, immediately recognizing that two of the three had tails. Hal and Goku quickly made their way to the scene, while Raditz began to address the world on Vegeta's behalf.
People of Earth, rejoice! Lord Vegeta has come to usher in a new era. He serves a power unlike any you have ever known. Absolute, infinite, and unrelenting. You have no choice but to prepare for a long, dark future as slaves to our master's will.
Goku and Hal would arrive, with Raditz immediately recognizing Goku as his little brother. He directs the camera to Goku as if he were a showman, smiling as he continued his declaration.
We are the Saiyans. Once killer of worlds for profit and sport, we now remaining survivors have a higher purpose, and we are not the first of our kind to make your planet ours. He is here now, Kakarot, a hero, my little brother.
Goku and Hal were stunned at the revelation, trying to fool themselves that this must be some kind of trick.
What fools you are! The man who stands before you was sent to your world to raze it to the ground. It seems he's done a rather poor job of it, so...
Raditz turns to Vegeta, asking for permission to begin. Vegeta looked over to Nappa and nodded. Nappa, in response, raised two fingers in the air and obeyed the order. The explosion came almost instantly, with Hal barely having time to form a barrier around himself and Goku, who was still in shock from everything he had just heard. In one gigantic flash of light, the population of Coast City was reduced from 7 million
to 5. The trio of Saiyans stood as lone figures in the ruins, with Raditz quickly finding the battered body of his little brother standing up from beneath the rubble. Raditz thanked Goku for surviving the blast, despite being so weak, while Goku jumped forward, desperately trying to fight back.
I'll die before I let you murder an entire world full of people!
But he was defeated in just a single combination. Raditz then proceeded to pummel his brother, a twisted smile forming on his face.
What's wrong? I wouldn't want this to be over before we had a proper reunion. Earth really has made you soft. And here I spent all those years. All those years! Jealous of you. But look at you. You're nothing. You should have never been born. You're a disgrace. Just a Saiyan. While I am one of the chosen!
Raditz continued to torture Goku as he lay helpless, until Vegeta stopped him.
Do not forget why we're here, Raditz. I have no patience for your personal issues.
Yes, my lord.
As Raditz began to charge one final attack, the Saiyan's attention shifted to a small green light emerging from a trench in the ground.
In brightest day, in blackest night. No evil shall escape my sight. Oh, it looks like your little friend is still alive, Kakarot. Let those who worship evil's might. What is he mumbling? A final prayer? Beware my power. Green Lantern's light!
The entire area was suddenly engulfed in a blinding green glow, Hal spending the last of his charge to form a construct around Goku in the shape of his Nimbus, and then sending it out of the area as fast as he could make it. Furious, Raditz turned and fired a blast at Hal, who managed to say one last word before his body was blasted apart.
Gotcha.
Only the lantern ring remained, and quickly shot off into the sky, while Raditz attempted to follow in the direction Goku had been sent, but Vegeta stopped him in his tracks. They were here for the anti-life equation. They were here to prepare the world for Darkseid. Nappa and Raditz were sent to confuse and scatter the world's heroes by causing mass destruction, with Nappa heading to Hub City and Raditz reluctantly heading to Bloodhaven. Goku would crash onto Themyscira, Hal's last 1 in a million construct, getting his friend to safety before finally dissipating. Diana was in shock to see someone as powerful as Goku on the edge of death, and quickly took him to the Amazonian healing chambers, home to the Purple Ray, a mythic device that can heal all wounds. While Goku was being treated, Raditz continued his search as much as he could, instructing his mother box, the living computer, to alert him if Kakarot's vitals were detected. With his revenge postponed, he decided to continue with his mission, floating over Bloodhaven for just a moment before reducing the entire city to ash. In the Batcave, Batman slammed his desk in frustration as his communication line with Nightwing went dead. Just moments before, he had been organizing the Bat family, preparing to evacuate cities, but now, his boy was gone, all because he hadn't been able to react fast enough. He swore that wouldn't happen again.
The League is not going to be enough. Alfred, activate protocol. Uzaru.
Meanwhile, Nappa was making his way to Hub City, deliberately slowing himself down so he could savor all the destruction he left on his way there. This bliss would be short-lived, however, as Hawkgirl slammed her mace into his jaw, sending him crashing onto the road below. As he tried to get up, he was smashed back into the air by an uppercut from Aquaman, leading him straight into Hawkgirl's second strike.
I'm not letting you damn apes take another world!
The pair's combo was executed perfectly, and yeah, Nappa emerged from the wreckage with a bigger smile than he had had before.
By Poseidon!
How the hell is he still standing?
Don't start praying yet. You can save those for a different god after I'm through with you.
Nappa closed the distance between him in a burst of speed, and with one devastating blow, severed Aquaman's arm from his body. With a city destroyed, Raditz began his search for Goku once more, combing the next city for any trace of where he had landed. However, he didn't get very far before he felt Vegeta's voice demanding that they retreat to Apocalypse. Initially, he was obedient, but then Raditz quickly realized that something was wrong here. The Martian Manhunter deduced that Raditz had seen through his first mental attack, so he increased the intensity with a more direct assault. Raditz screamed in pain as he fell to the ground, his own memories feeding feeling like they were being weaponized into tiny daggers piercing into his brain. Yet the Saiyan, while shaken, was not out. Granny Goodness had raised him well. He was all too familiar with mental domination, and so attuned his mother box to find a countermeasure while he began to fight back. Raditz and Martian Manhunter were trading blow for blow, with the Martian's intangibility serving as a key edge in the fight, pushing Raditz on the back foot. Before Johns could do further damage, however, the mother box activated the psychic blockers implanted into Raditz's mind, allowing the Saiyan to fight unhampered and send Johns crashing into a nearby truck, blasting the area and engulfing the Martian in flames. Raditz cackled with confidence before being hit by what looked like a red hurricane.
Welcome to Keystone, creep.
The Flash doused the fire of Johns and helped his friend to his feet, the pair preparing to launch another assault on the now furious Saiyan. Goku opened his eyes, yet he was not on Themyscira. He was alone, standing in a white void.
Huh? How did I get here? Last thing I remember was... No! I have to get back! I have to help Hal!
Hal Jordan is dead, my boy, though you're not too far from that yourself.
The man standing in front of Goku looked identical to his Master I-Ching, but yet something was wrong. Goku tried to sense his energy, but it was the same as the white void that surrounded them. The man explained that his name was All Yang, the counterpart to I-Ching, the living embodiment of the principle of Yang to I-Ching's Yin, and the one man who could grant Goku the power to save the world.
I don't understand. His body should be healed, but...
Wonder Woman bit her lip in frustration. She had sought to help Goku heal and then join the battle. However, despite the purple ray seemingly healing him, he would not wake, and his vitals were continuing to spike. Hippolyta, the mother of Wonder Woman, told her daughter that she was needed on the battlefield. Meanwhile, Hippolyta herself would watch over Goku, understanding what he was going through and preparing for what needed to be done. Time was running out, and Diana had no other choice.
I shall handle these invaders, old friend. May the gods help you in your own fight.
Nappa stood over Hawkgirl, his hands wrapped around her wings as his boot pressed into her back.
Now this brings back good memories. Been a long time since I had Thanagarian wings in my trophy room.
Aquaman rose to his feet, limping towards the Saiyan in the last attempt to try and save his friend.
Face me, monster! Have you no pride?
Nappa paused for a moment before beginning to tear Hawkgirl's wing.
I had that beaten out of me.
Before Nappa could do serious damage, dozens of small pellets exploded onto his face, covering it in a cement-like substance that began to blind and suffocate the Saiyan. A mechanical fist then hit him to the next block, revealing the Batman, wearing his most powerful armor.
Get the hell off my planet!
Batman placed Hawkgirl to relative safety before catching a collapsing Aquaman.
A mechanical suit is not going to stop someone like him.
I know. I have a plan.
Of course. Bruce, what do you need?
I need him to bleed.
Consider it done.
Nappa roared with anger, sending a blast from his mouth that cleared the substance from his face. His eyes were red with rage, no longer having any sense of self. Aquaman charged ahead, his wounded body no longer caging the spirit of a king. He assaulted Nappa from all fronts, taking every counter blow and responding in turn. Despite Nappa's rage, Aquaman matched it, until finally, Arthur struck Nappa across the eye with his trident, blood gushing into the Saiyan's vision. Aquaman turned to Batman, acknowledging that the task was done. With the safety of his people given a chance, the King of Atlantis fell to soil, dead. Seeing his main threat fall, Nappa felt his warrior instincts calm and turned his attention to Batman, vanishing, then appearing in front of the hero in an instant. He held the mech in his grip, crushing it like paper.
This was your big shot? Ha! What was this toy even for?
To get you close.
A grey mist was released from the mech suit, sprayed directly into Nappa's face. The Saiyan rubbed his eyes. The blood rushing from his cut began to increase, along with a strange feeling overtaking his mind. Nappa shrugged it off, only to turn his head and see Batman, with no armor, standing in the middle of the road. Nappa laughed, before being struck in the face by Batman's opened fist, hundreds of blows raining on him in an instant. Nappa swung to retaliate, but Batman dodged every blow, moving with total grace, and then striking back with tens of times the force.
But the intel said you were just a guy in a bat costume. I'm a warrior of apocalypse.
And I'm Batman.
Nappa shot a blast towards Batman, who without moving took it head on, the smoke clearing to reveal he hadn't been injured at all.
This can't be happening! This doesn't make any sense!
In reality, Wonder Woman had just arrived on the scene to see Batman standing far away from Nappa, who was currently attacking thin air, as he had been for hours.
Bruce, what is this?
Nanites injected into his bloodstream. They're making him think he's fighting an unbeatable opponent.
Wonder Woman noticed the body of Arthur Curry on the ground, the wounded Hawkgirl, and the hundreds of civilians dead at Nappa's hands. This had gone on long enough. It was time to end it.
We shall take him to his master and send them back where they came.
If you're taking him, we need to break his arms.
The Flash attacked Raditz from every possible angle, at speeds so fast it was as if they were all at once. Raditz, however, remained more focused on Martian Manhunter, who was using his shape-shifting and attempted to suffocate the Saiyan by wrapping around his throat, while the Flash tried to create a vacuum, sucking the air out of his lungs. Raditz broke out of it by erupting in a giant explosion of ki, sending both of the heroes flying backwards.
You should be more thankful, Martian. If you just sit down and let me kill you, things will go a lot smoother.
Flash, I'm afraid this Saiyan may be too much for us to defeat. Evacuate the city. I've already alerted the others. We can retreat.
No, I think I know what the problem is. Just hang tight, I'll be back in a flash.
Wally got into a sprinter's position, the world around him slowing down as his eyes crackled with the energy of the Speed Force. Barry had taught him how to live in this world, how to dodge and weave, trip, disable, push, everything he needed to be a hero. But against this man, he needed to do more than that. Barry never taught him how to hurt a man. He had to figure that one out for himself. The Flash grabbed Raditz, going so fast that they arrived in the Grand Canyon before Raditz even realized he had been moved. The Saiyan was strong enough to shake him off, but Wally sped off again in a red and gold streak, before returning almost instantly, his fists raised as he kept running, circling the world hundreds of times. The faster an object moves, the more mass it gains. Before Raditz could even feel the blow, he was hit by an infinite mass punch. The shockwave was so great it could be felt by Martian Manhunter despite the distance, and he tried to reach Wally's mind to see the outcome.
Flash, are you?
I'm okay. He's down, out cold. I think I broke my hand though. Ow.
You are a very brave man, Wally West.
Goku fell to the ground once more, exhausted, while his teacher All Yang laughed as the Saiyan had failed once again.
How long have I been in here?
6 days, 6 months, 6 years. Doesn't matter.
Time flowed differently in the mindscape, yet it wasn't stopped altogether. It was buying Goku time, but he still couldn't close the gap between himself and the Saiyans.
I'm wasting too much time here! I can still sense bits of what's happening. My friends, everyone, they're in trouble while you just keep telling me to get angry!
All Yang smiled, explaining that this was the problem. Those emotions, the caring. He needed pure anger, hate. Hampering it with hope limited his control. The foolish teachings I-Ching had taught him were, apparently, holding him back. The Saiyans didn't share such a weakness, and so they are strong. Goku denied any association with the Saiyans, not wanting to even acknowledge that part of himself. Monsters, murderers, who sent him here just to kill. Is that why he was so truly obsessed with getting stronger? Not to express himself, but to hurt people? All Yang explained that his Saiyan side was part of him, just like his human upbringing, but he must not choose his weaker side. He must only embrace his Saiyan side, become completely who he was meant to be, a warrior. Kakarot. Goku suddenly saw the image of the grey ape in the mindscape, killing Pa, rampaging, completely out of control. He had been capable of the same destructions the Saiyans are now causing, and while he stood here complaining, people were dying.
This is the power-up you need. If you could harness your great ape form's berserker power, you could kill them all. Your tail is only needed for the transformation. The raw power is still inside your body.
Goku took a deep breath before smiling and getting into a meditative stance, no longer trying to fight.
What are you doing? You've already gotten much stronger. You're close. Sitting down is halting training.
I'm gonna take a break. Torturing myself isn't training. You're supposed to know pretty much everything, so Could you tell me what the Saiyans are? What my brother's life was?
All Yang hesitated, but eventually, he allowed this, explaining Raditz's and the Saiyans' history to Goku. He wished to break I-Ching's training of Goku and turn him into his own personal weapon to bend the world. He couldn't keep trying to force him, or else he'd push him away before he could fully manipulate him. Vegeta remained sat in the ruins of Coast City, as he had been for the majority of the day. His eyes closed as his mother box told him all he needed.
To think they couldn't even handle this much on their own.
Vegeta rose to his feet as Wonder Woman arrived with Nappa tied in the lasso of truth.
I am Diana of Themyscira, and I am here to offer a chance for you to leave in peace. Your comrade here is no longer able to fight. Take him and your other ally back to whence you came. No further harm needs to be done this day.
Vegeta approached the pair. Nappa was now laying on the ground, and Batman was hidden on a vantage point, analysing the situation. Diana extended her hand to Vegeta, while Vegeta looked down at Nappa. Before facing Wonder Woman, his hand extended now too.
Vegeta, this rope, it let me see the truth. After all these years, we can have a better life, like the old days.
Vegeta incinerated Nappa with a single blast, maintaining eye contact with Wonder Woman the entire time.
I have no need for a soldier who can't fight.
You monster!
Wonder Woman tried to strike Vegeta, but he caught her blow, her incredible strength impressing even him.
Well now, isn't this a surprise? To think a backwater place like this could produce someone like you.
Before their battle could escalate further, Vegeta noticed a familiar figure entering into view. Raditz, who looked as if he was running for his life. Behind him, the Flash followed, panting heavily, while Martian Manhunter uncoiled himself from Wally's arm. The battle had drained the Flash, and he was no longer able to harness his full power.
You better have a damn good explanation as to why you've brought these weaklings to my doorstep.
Yes, my lord. I simply wish to, show you their defeat myself.
Vegeta was tempted to kill Raditz in that moment, but decided he needed someone to take care of the rest while he fought the female. She had piqued his interest. Batman regrouped with Flash and Martian Manhunter, pooling their knowledge with the Saiyans and how best to defeat them. Raditz, realizing he needed an edge if he wanted to win, decided to go against Vegeta's preferences and use his mother box to send in a small unit of parademons from Apocalypse, charging at the three grounded heroes with his new reinforcements. Goku thought about everything his life had taught him. He had no idea how long it had been for him since he first emerged in this place, but it had given him everything he needed to decide his next course of action. He loved to fight. He loved to help people. He helped his friends. He forgave his enemies. Goku believed that everyone deserved another chance to come back stronger. He wanted to fight them at their best. But did that just mean strength? Was he really fighting the best possible version of a person if their life had held them back? His parents had raised him, but he was sent to Earth to kill them. He killed Pa. But Ma saved him. I-Ching trained him, and now All Yang was trying to manipulate him. His brother hated him, but only because he wasn't there for him. The Saiyans were monsters, but they were victims of genocide themselves by a bigger monster. Everything had two sides, but one wasn't inherently right. One wasn't inherently stronger. One wasn't enough. He needed the duality. That's what his symbol had been there for. To remind him, Kakarot, the Saiyan warrior, Yin, Kent, the hero of Metropolis, Yang. He felt the great ape power inside of him roaring, raging to be set free. Goku tapped into it, only touching what he needed, never letting it envelop him. His aura burst to life, destructive and untamed. He was like the center of a storm, his muscles growing in size as energy poured into them. Oh Yang smiled. This must be it. This must be the wrath, the anger. Until the storm stopped. His aura was destructive, but tempered, flickering on and off in bursts of green. He opened his eyes, while his black hair stood upright. He took a breath, and then his features returned to normal, the power returning inside of him as quickly as it came.
Thank you. I'm grateful for having the time to train and figure things out. But I ain't gonna just focus on one side anymore.
The round faded around him, with All Yang beginning to fade with it. He could only enter Goku's mind due to his weakened state, but now he would never be able to take him. All Yang cursed his fate and decided to try again one day with another. Wonder Woman began to lose ground as Vegeta started to increase the intensity of his attacks. She was never overwhelmed. To the people on the ground, they looked like total equals. Every hit given was met with one right back. However, Diana knew she couldn't keep up this pace, not without doing something desperate, and the Saiyan just kept increasing in ferocity.
Oh, what's wrong? Maybe I expected too much. After all, you're only a woman.
Vegeta was cracked across the chin by a kick from Diana, sending him hurtling into the ground below. However, he regained his composure and landed safely.
That's Wonder Woman to you. Now, you were saying?
Very well, Wonder Woman.
Batman and company, however, were faring much worse. Having to deal with the parademons on top of Raditz was simply too much. Raditz even began blasting through his own soldiers to get better shots on the heroes, hitting Martian Manhunter as he shielded Batman and Flash from one blast. The three had nothing left. It was all but over. Or so it would have been, had Goku not arrived and deflected the final blast.
Hi guys! Sorry it took so long, but I'll take it from here, alright?
The Saiyan had arrived in just a nick of time, his damaged orange outfit now replaced with a black and white variant prepared by Hippolyta. Raditz clenched his fist in anger at the sight of his brother, dashing at Goku with all his speed, as if his wounds from earlier had been dismissed by his rage. But no matter how fast he moved, no matter what trick he tried, Raditz couldn't touch Goku.
This isn't right. It's only been a couple of hours. A simple Zenkai couldn't have made you this strong.
Raditz, you don't have to do this anymore! I know what happened! I know about Darkseid!
Everyone in the area turned at the mention of the name, with Vegeta and Raditz in particular staring in shock at Goku.
You know about Darkseid? What is that, a joke?
Raditz's body began to glow, white hot lightning crackling around him in waves.
If you knew Darkseid, you would be on your knees for the Master. He is beyond good and evil. He is the prophet of anti-life. He is the rock, the chain, and the lightning. All powerful, all unforgiving, all conquering. He is your new god, now and forever. Now let us die. Die for Darkseid!
Goku raised his arms, attempting to shield the three behind him, but moving faster than even he could recognize, Wonder Woman appeared in front of him, knowing that only her bracelets had the power to block a blast of this magnitude from destroying the planet. The explosion could be seen from space, a final marking engraving Raditz's dedication for Darkseid into the earth itself. Raditz's corpse had been reduced to stone, crumbling as it hit the ground. Wonder Woman was unconscious. She had been able to protect her allies and the Earth, but her proximity to the blast had taken her out of the fight.
Raditz, I'm sorry you were alone all those years. Bruce, take care of everyone here, alright?
You can't take him on alone.
I have to try.
Goku flew down to where Vegeta stood. The prince's arms were crossed as he was visibly showing annoyance at the fact that Raditz had cost him an interesting opponent. Though, from the technique he saw Kakarot use against Raditz, it at least seemed that he was better than the rest.
Hey, Vegeta, was it? Do you think we can move this elsewhere?
Now why would I do that? Your little friends here give me the perfect chance to take you out, like that Wonder Woman.
Something tells me you wouldn't want to win like that.
Perceptive. Fine, I'll play along.
Goku shot off first, with Vegeta casually matching his speed. They travelled for a brief moment before Vegeta grew bored and decided for himself. He landed on the ridge of a deep canyon, while Goku landed on the opposite side. Goku was relieved that it seemed like there were no people or animals here.
Why are you in such a hurry?
The quicker I settle this business, the quicker I can get to my real mission.
Well, I'm actually kind of looking forward to this. From what I know, you're meant to be our prince. Not every day a low class gets to spar with an elite.
Such rankings are behind me. I serve a higher purpose now than any Saiyan. Taking pride in what sent you to this mudhole is hardly becoming.
Being sent here was the best thing that could have happened to me. I'm not ashamed of who I am or where I came from. I'm Kakarot Kent, and I'm proud of that.
Vegeta gritted his teeth at the remark, but quickly regained his composure.
Then you die a proud Saiyan warrior. See what good it does you.
After a moment of silence, a pebble split from a nearby rock, and the war began. Their battle was intense from the start, but it was clear that Vegeta was playing with Kakarot, taunting him during the exchanges, while Kakarot had to focus every instinct he had on staying alive. Kakarot's main advantage was his freeform style, managed to divert Vegeta's blows and use his momentum against him to land some hits. But while this kept him in the game, Vegeta quickly adapted and began to overpower him once more. They charged towards each other, their arms locking together in a fierce struggle. Vegeta's greatest strength and stamina started pushing Kakarot back, knowing that he couldn't win this battle without using both the control and the chaos inside of him. Kakarot closed his eyes, taking a deep breath as his aura began to emerge from around him in spirals. Vegeta felt Kakarot's grip tighten as the Saiyan's muscles began to swell up. Kakarot opened his eyes, no longer black. An explosion of green energy erupted around the duo, and Vegeta suddenly found his arms flung back. A powerful kick, accelerated by Kakarot's technique, smashed into his jaw. Kakarot's fist struck him in the gut, doubling him over, and a rapid blast of chi from Kakarot's other hand sent him flying back.
What is this technique?
Kakarot was using the power of the Great Ape in rapid bursts, his chi training allowing him to control the excess of power while still maintaining his senses. Kakarot blasted off again, landing another barrage of kicks far too fast for the prince to follow. Thanks to harnessing his Uzaru power, Kakarot had turned the tables, the battle switching to Vegeta desperately trying to keep up an offensive, as Kakarot would strategically use his new technique in bursts to counter whatever Vegeta tried. Their damage was beginning to even out now, and Kakarot felt himself overwhelmed with joy at getting to go all out with this new move. Kakarot's smile quickly faded as he felt his power begin to plummet.
I'm so dumb! I never had a chance to see if this technique had any drawbacks!
Kakarot was feeling every subsequent burst of power getting weaker and himself losing stamina fast. This technique was powerful, but it relied on him having enough of his own energy to control the Uzaru power. It couldn't be used repeatedly, or else he could lose the ability to suppress the form altogether.
So, Kakarot, it seems you've still got some tricks up your sleeve. I'm still going to kill you, fool. You're a dishonor to the power you wield. It's an abomination.
Huh, so you do care about all that Saiyan stuff after all.
Vegeta hadn't fully realized what he said until he said it, but now Kakarot had got under his skin. Try as he might to deny it, this battle was resurfacing instincts he thought were long dead. The idea of this low-class filth giving him trouble, it gnawed at him from the inside. But he kept it down. He had to, for Darkseid.
You dare doubt my resolve!
They clashed again, but this time it was Vegeta who went on the offensive, dealing out heavy blows that pounded relentlessly on Kakarot's defenses. Despite his determination, Kakarot couldn't catch his breath. He was fighting at maximum speed, pushing every muscle to the limits of his performance. Each block was firm, each counterattack was precise, but there was an unprecedented tenacity in Vegeta's attacks that he couldn't match. He had to go further. He couldn't let himself fall now, not after everything.
Come on, body! Give me everything I've got!
Kakarot's aura doubled in size, his hair whipping in the wind as he crashed into Vegeta with a single full-power body blow. The prince coughed up blood, his eyes widening as he felt his chest light on fire. Kakarot was relentless. The more power he tapped into, the more he felt his sense of self begin to fade, but he tempered this fury with the control he was taught from his masters, using the chance to strike him with pressure point blows, the training on Earth on full display as Kakarot systematically cut off Vegeta's oxygen, with a final blast sending him crashing into the mountainside. Vegeta struggled to breathe, yet his mind was racing with only one thought: rage. Pure rage at this insignificant clown reducing him to such a pathetic state. He erupted in a dramatic display of power, storm clouds brewing and covering the night sky.
I belong to the upper echelon of the most elite warrior class that the universe has ever seen! I will not allow myself to fall before this low-class trash!
He could no longer hide it. His pride refused to be silenced any longer. This was the ultimate insult, and even Darkseid could not deny Vegeta his fury now.
My noble blood, spilled by the sheer luck of this trash? No, I will not allow this to stand!
Vegeta shot up into the air, he lifted his arms, the rocks around him crumbling from the energy released. Kakarot stood, one hand still grabbing at his shattered ribs.
Vegeta, wait! I know you're enjoying this battle too! We're both Saiyans! You're showing that you can fight what he turned you into!
But his pleas fell on deaf ears. Vegeta was beyond reasoning now.
I just don't have enough energy to fight back! But I have to try!
Kakarot winced in pain as he pulled both his fists towards the center of his chest.
Okay.
It is time to take back what is mine! Every breath you take is an assault to my honor, and for that I must thank you, Kakarot. By my hand, your blood will be the baptism for the rebirth of my pride! Galagan!
Cannon!
The two beams met with a massive flash halfway between the pair of Saiyans. For a brief moment, the cataclysmic struggle was frozen as the concentrated power of Vegeta's attack met the earnest determination of Kakarot's. But Vegeta's blast simply had more raw power behind it, and slowly but surely began to overpower Kakarot's. He had no other choice. The only way he could save the planet, save everyone, was to fully immerse himself in the Great Ape power. For the first time since he had killed Pa Kent, this would be its redemption. He wasn't afraid anymore, and so he let go. The Chaos Cannon erupted with power. Kakarot twisted his fist and the beam began to twist like a drill, literally boring through Vegeta's own attack. Kakarot roared with primal fury, completely overpowering Vegeta's blast and sending him into the sky. Kakarot remained on the ground, continuing to roar, mindlessly powering up to his limits. He had defeated Vegeta, but now he had gone too far. He had lost control of his senses. Still alive, Vegeta watched the roaring Saiyan from above, even more angry at the fact that someone who couldn't maintain their senses was harnessing the power of the Great Ape. Luckily, he did not have such a weakness. Kakarot's mindless powering up was interrupted by the gigantic boot heel of Vegeta, now transformed thanks to the artificial moon he had created. While Kakarot's power was great, now that Vegeta was transformed, he stood no chance, especially without the control of his senses. Vegeta blasted Kakarot repeatedly, lighting up the night sky, before breaking his legs with his fist, taking his time and enjoying every second he had of getting payback for his humiliation.
To think, I was actually enjoying our battle. You brought the Saiyan back out of me, Kakarot. No small feat, though one that will cost you your life.
Vegeta watched as the last bit of power left Kakarot's body. The hero had just regained his senses, but it was too late. His hair returned to normal and his primal roars were replaced with screams of pain. The pair were no longer alone, however. As the military force of Argus arrived on the scene, the air unit commanded by Steve Trevor and the weapons supplied by Lex Luthor. Luthor had deliberately waited before involving himself in the battle, wanting the threat to be seen as unstoppable, before swooping in to save the day. The soldiers blasted Vegeta, their weapons only serving to annoy him as he began to swipe at the tanks and planes with his tail, using his mouth blast to wipe out large portions of the force. Luthor wasn't impressed and initiated his main plan. Alex Core satellite floating in Earth's orbit began to fire strange rays at Vegeta, not harming him, but draining the blood waves from the Saiyan's body. Luthor had discovered Kakarot's ability to transform due to researching him during their initial encounters, analysing samples of his blood from various battlefields and discovering the secrets of Saiyan biology. The plan was working until Vegeta's armor, which held his mother box, detected the blood waves leaving his body and began to create its own artificial source to keep Vegeta transformed. Luthor could prepare for the Saiyans, but not for Darkseid. Vegeta was furious at this fact, having no idea his armor was designed this way. Needing this outside help was a reminder for how he'd live without his pride, and it sent him into a blind rage. The giant ape crushed the stunned army, while Luthor looked on from the safety of his bunker, his drones allowing him to monitor the scene. Despite fighting to the last bullet in his chamber, Steve Trevor was killed. Kakarot was forced to lay and watch as the man was crushed by Vegeta, helpless. Vegeta's gloating didn't last long, as Wonder Woman re-emerged, beaten, but having enough strength to arrive just in time to see her lover killed. With all her Amazonian strength, Wonder Woman leapt past Vegeta's defenses and sliced off his tail in one swift blow. Vegeta was back to his normal state, panting but not defeated yet. He charged at Wonder Woman, overpowering what remained of her strength, and began to mercilessly attack her in revenge for his tail. His assault was stopped by the intervention of what remained of the Justice League, with Batman getting the Batplane's autopilot to kamikaze into the Prince. Vegeta emerged from the flames, with Hawkgirl hammering him with her mace while he was dazed. When he blasted her back, Martian Manhunter began to assault him mentally, breaking through the Saiyans' defenses just enough to hold him in place. This gave Luthor the chance to send the final orbital strike onto Vegeta, his satellite harnessing power from the sun itself to end the Saiyan. Yet still, Vegeta stood.
I have to admit, you really did a number on me. But I still have enough strength to take care of weaklings like you.
Vegeta began to charge his energy for an explosive wave that would wipe them all out at once, but before he could fire it, the Flash smashed his fist against the Saiyan's chest, cracking his armor. Vegeta went to counter, but by that time the Flash was already on the other side of the world, speeding up to launch another blow. He went to strike Vegeta again, but without turning his head, the Prince fired a blast on the ground beneath them both, erupting Flash's footing with a blinding explosion. Wally West was knocked out. The Prince had used the last of his energy to ensure the Flash was out cold, approaching Wally to make sure this threat was taken care of.
Not bad. You might have taken me out if you actually knew how to fight.
Vegeta was distracted, and Wonder Woman, having been given enough energy from Kakarot to move, took the chance to slash across his back, cutting through what remained of his armor and causing the Saiyan Prince to scream in pain, his body no longer having the strength to stand. Vegeta tried to get up, but he simply couldn't move. All the damage had piled up, and now he could barely crawl, grabbing his mother box from what was left of his armor and punching in the coordinates to send him back to Apocalypse. Diana limped over to the crawling Vegeta, realizing what he was doing, and so held her sword up with her non-broken arm. She was prepared to end this threat herself. He could not be allowed to escape. She would do it for Steve.
Diana, don't do it! Please, don't kill him!
Why? Look around you. Is this justice? Is it justice to allow this creature to live after all the lives he has taken?
I know, you're right. He's so strong that as long as he's alive, no one on Earth is really safe. But you've got to listen to me. Maybe this is just me being selfish, but right now, just as you were about to kill him, I couldn't help but think that it would be such a waste. I thought I'd gotten as strong as I could get. But fighting Vegeta, seeing how far he could go, it got me excited. Maybe it's just because I'm a Saiyan too, but during our battle, I could tell he'd been warped. That his pride in himself had been taken from him a long time ago. I was lucky enough to be sent here, where I had a chance to use my love of fighting to better myself. But Vegeta? He never had a chance to be anything more than this.
Diana stared down at Vegeta, who was still struggling to use his mother box. After what felt like an eternity, she took a breath, and then dropped her sword.
Very well. I trust your judgment. If you believe he deserves a chance, then I shall be the one to ensure it. No more blood shall be spilled this day.
Vegeta, however, began to laugh, coughing up blood as he did.
Well, it's about time for me to make my exit. But this isn't over. Not by a long shot. There won't be a miracle to save you next time. When he finds out what you've done, Darkseid will...
Vegeta paused, a look of terror washing over his face. He knew what would happen if he returned to Darkseid in this state. A failure. It would mean the death that is life. The Omega Sanction. The Prince dropped his mother box, deciding that whatever destiny awaited him here, it would be far more escapable than what Darkseid would do to him. As the survivors began to collect themselves, they all looked on in shock as Green Lantern arrived on the scene, but not the one they were familiar with.
You're not Hal Jordan. Who are you?
My name is Kyle Rayner, and I know how to save everyone.
The heroes of Earth had managed to survive, but at great cost. Yet this new figure has arrived, speaking of a chance to bring back those who had been lost. The future of the universe seems uncertain, as a new chapter has begun. Thank you all for watching the Dragon Ball DC Saiyan Saga. As you can tell by that little tease at the end, this is just the beginning of this story. We've got a lot more planned in the future, and we're so excited to share it with you. However, due to the amount of work it takes to make these videos, there's going to be a little bit of a break between the next installment in the story. I hope you'll be able to enjoy the other content that will be coming to the channel in the coming weeks to make up for that. We're really going to put our all into this series specifically, so when it drops, it's going to feel like a really big event. As usual, I want to just do a quick run through of all the people who helped bring this together. The amazing Sid Part 2, my co-writer, Smugstick, the person who I helped collab with this series in the first place, and you should go check out his video series to see where Superman is. Seb Isa, who not only did the amazing Goku design, but also the transformation with the Goku, Ikari, Wrath, the same form that Broly uses in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. Seeing that come to life just blew my mind and really helped visualize what I was trying to get across with this version of Kakarot. And I couldn't be anywhere without my amazing cast. As always, go to the description below and check out all of their links. Be sure to follow them on their own individual projects. Before we close out, a little bit of a treat to everyone who helped me get to 6,000 subscribers at the time of posting this. Here is the blooper reel.
Wait, what do you mean I don't get a redemption? This is bullshit.
I'm Aquaman. That's a big motherfucker. Sen.
When he finds out what you've done, Darkseid will find your couch and he'll sit on it!
Darkseid? Silly Vegeta, this ain't Star Wars.
Monster in a mask.
Wonder Woman, I don't understand. No one on this island has any balls!